Hi, it's Ruth Hamilton, back with another craft video. Thanks very much for watching today. This time my video is going to be using some of the products that have just been sent to me by Pebeo. Pebeo have an absolutely massive range of products, and as soon as the boxes arrived I just got dived in right away and started to experiment with all sorts of things. So this is one of the pieces I made with the glazing resin, and I've mixed it with sand and some acrylic paint. So another little canvas where I've been trying out the different fantasy mediums, the prism and the prism and moon together with some of the glitter. Yeah, even some of the Seda colour where I've been painting on a pair of sneakers. And some of the glass paint. I don't know if you can see that too well in there, but yeah, painted a fuchsia on there. And I've also used some on, yeah, you can see it on there, on some of the acetate to make a card. That one's through a stencil. The fuchsias were painted freehand, and that was through a stencil. And then just to see what all I can do with it, what I can use it on. And this is a little wooden box with a lid, so I've decorated the lid, some cern on that as well, and even just a shell. Yeah, you can tell I just got excited and started to try it on all sorts of things. So today, anyway, I'm going to be using some of the little jewellery pieces. These are all Pebeo as well, so the accessories, a square bracelet, an oval shaped one, and I've got a pendant. And oops, very simply, I'm just going to start with this ring. Now, it's adjustable at the back, so should fit everyone. And I am going to use some of the moon and prism, and of course always have to have some glitter. So let's get started. There's so many different colours that I could have used, but I think I've tried them all. I've been experimenting. There's another little piece. I've used glazing resin over the back. So I've got some moon, some prism and some ceramic on here, and then I've glazed the lot with glazing resin. I didn't catch that, yeah, there. And then some silver leaf on top. So anyhow, I've tried them all. I can safely say I am in love. Beautiful. So for this little ring I'm just going to try to curtail myself to 3 colours. So I've got a container here which I have some sand in, and that's basically just going to keep this ring steady so that I don't have to touch it too much. And there's where we're going to work. So I set that aside for a moment or two. The main thing that I have found with these products, actually I'm going to use the moon hammered effect metal blue, prism in eggshell white, and some Vitrail glitter medium. The main thing that I have to say with these products is you really must stir well to get the effect. So while I'm stirring these, I couldn't stress how important that is actually, so I will spend a moment or two mixing them, stirring them, and bringing all the wonderful effects to life in it. And what I'm going to speed up the video while I do that, and then we'll come back. So I'm starting with the eggshell white prism, and it's very well stirred by now, and I'm just going to drop a little drop here and there. Do you know, that would actually even look beautiful on its own when you see the finished effect, but just for now I'm going to add a little bit of the moon. Now what I have noticed is the moon has a different effect, so when you add it to something like the prism, it tends to try to take over. So I just like to add just a tiny drop in so that it doesn't spoil the whole effect. It's a beautiful effect on its own. It's really nice when it's mixed, but you just need to bear in mind that when you add it to the prism, it likes to take over. So it will spread quite rapidly through it. So that's probably enough. I would say that's fine for now. Now, just tilt that up. As I say, it's not just level. That's what the good thing about having a bit of sand in there is. Now I'll clean this up, and I'm going to add a tiny bit of glitter. Can you see already what that's doing? Oh, I could watch that forever. Just look. Isn't that lovely? And just a tiny drop of glitter. It's really, everything needs a drop of glitter, doesn't it? Ooh. Yep. And then I'm just going to possibly put a little bit more of the eggshell white prism in there, just up the top. Yeah, that's fine. That's all I need to add. Going to give it a little twirl around, not too much. It can do its own thing. So there we are. Now, I'm very happy with that. And what actually happens is you leave that aside, it does its own thing, it looks beautiful when it dries, and whenever it's finished, just to keep it safe, so that it's not easily damaged after that, once that dries, then I'm going to put a coat of glazing resin on top. So for now I'm just going to leave that aside to dry. So I thought I would like to try one of these bracelets. That's another one of the accessories, and this time, because it's got 6 little compartments or whatever, I thought it might be nice so that I could show the different effects of the prism in some and the moon in some, that I might use some of these together and do every alternate space on there. So for one, I'm going to do the moon, carmine and pearl, and mix those together, a little glitter as well, and the prism in the alternate ones in eggshell white and cherry blossom. That way, when they dry, you'll be able to see the difference between the prism in one and the moon in the other, and I think it'll make a lovely bracelet as well. So I'm going to start mixing now. So that's everything really well mixed up, and now I'm going to put it in here, and I've got my moon colours at one side and my prism at the other, so that I don't mix them up and I can keep them together in this one space. So this is the prism cherry blossom, and I'm going to drop some in there. You can bring this out with a pipette or a wider spatula or something. I kind of like to do it in small drops like this, just so that I can more or less control the amount that goes in and not put too much. And so this is the prism cherry blossom, and I'm going to do it in every alternate space, like so. I just love these colours, and just really nice when they're wet and they haven't been activated yet. They're really lovely when they're to watch the process whenever they're drying, and they just have such a beautiful finish off them when you've done. Now I should say I've got the window wide open, letting some air in. I haven't got my gloves on, but I tend not to get too much of this stuff in my hands, but probably if you're new to it, it might be a good idea to wear some gloves as well. But the main thing's really just to have your window open. I'm really pleased with that so far. There we are. I'll just set that aside because I might actually put some more on that in a moment, but this is the eggshell white of the prism as well, so just keeping the prism colours together. Ooh, lovely. Very nice. mix some of that up with a cocktail stick in a moment. Oh, I love it. Yep. Lovely. I might in a moment or two add some more. So I'll set that aside, and now I think I shall go in with the moon colours. So this is the Carmine. I'm going to very carefully put these in. I've picked colours that are sort of similar to the Prism ones, but I just want to do them in the same bracelet so that you can see the effects of the, I think the effects of the two together be really nice. And you can see one square has prism and one has honeycomb. Honeysuckle. Not. There you are. Moon, sorry, prism and moon in alternate spaces. There we are. Lovely colours. And as you can see, they're very similar, but you'll see the different effects in a moment. And this is the pearl moon, all well stirred. Whoopsie, almost put that in the wrong one. There we are. A little bit. And some in the end one. I might just put another tiny drop in there. There we are. Now, I am going to add some of the glitter medium as well, but I think I'll do that just with a cocktail stick so that I don't add too much. I just want a little drop of it. The effect of the prism and the moon is so beautiful on its own, you don't actually need the glitter, but you know, I'm a kind of girl that likes some glitter. There we are. You can see that it's starting to do a bit of its own mixing together as I'm doing this, but really once it's left for a couple of hours, the effect it just has changed so much. So there we are. Some with more glitter than others, but tiny drop in there. Now I think I shall just mix it around. Oh, isn't that lovely? Isn't it? So I'm just going to mix that around slightly. And you've got to bear in mind as you do this that the end result probably will be nothing like what you imagine, because it does change as it sits. But there we are. For the moment, it looks beautiful. So I've left these pieces for about 24 hours to dry, and they've turned out really well. There you can see just how they've settled down into the compartments, the little spaces there, and there's plenty of room now that I can put some glazing resin on. So this one is the prism. You can see how that's turned out, with the nice glitter as well showing up on it. And this is the effect of the moon. Okay, and the ring has turned out really well too. You see that? The nice. There you are. So you can see, if I show it there, how it has flattened down into the mould a bit, and that's going to give me plenty of space because I'm going to be putting some glazing resin in there just to make sure they're not easily damaged afterwards. The prism and the moon finishes can actually be scored or scraped. They're quite durable, but just to give them that extra protection, I'm going to make up some resin. The glazing resin. Okay, so the glazing resin comes in two parts. There's the resin is part A and the hardener is part B, and you're going to need two of the resin, 2 parts resin to 1 part hardener. And the main thing again in this is to mix it really well. So I will use probably 5. I'm going to put the hardener in first. So I'm going to use 5 mils of the hardener. I don't need very much to do this, so that's it. I just got a slight little drop too much in there. There we are. And I'm going to pour this into my mixing container, like so. Just need that for a moment. And then we'll have 2 of the, scrape that all in first, 2 parts, so that's going to be 10 mils of the resin itself. And it's really easy. You can see that actually it doesn't take very much. Usually I make far too much and then have to try and find other things that I want to cover with it. So there we are. So I'm going to use 10 mils now of the resin. Just pour that in. There we are. Put that into my mixing container. Actually meant to just swirl the hardener around a little bit so it's around the outside of the container. That actually helps to make sure that it's pardon me, well mixed up. You can mix the two together, so you get all of that in there, and then I shall speed this up for the mixing process, but just remember it's very important to make sure you have them both mixed really well together. So the other thing is just try not to incorporate any excess bubbles into it. The bubbles will dissipate at the end, but probably better that you don't go too mad whenever you're mixing it up, and try not to put any extra in that you don't need to. So I'll keep mixing. Okay, so I have mixed that for roughly 3 minutes, and I think that should be well enough mixed to do the job. So I'll just pop this back on here, keep a level surface, and then the easiest way for me is just to drop it from this in small amounts first of all. Now there will be bubbles in it, but not to worry, they will disappear. If there's any larger bubbles that arise up to the surface, then you can burst them with a cocktail stick or a pin or something, but most of them disappear. If you're really having too many bubbles, a little heat will help that too, from a heat gun or something. So there we are. I'll just zoom you back in. See this process a little better, a little clearer. I find once you put the resin on top of the colours, it intensifies them even more and makes them look even nicer. So it's not only protects it, but actually intensifies the colours. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing with the ring. Now, if there's any parts where you think that's going to need a little encouragement into the corners, you can just do that with your mixing stick. Or if necessary and the corners may be tight or whatever, just use a cocktail stick and that should turn out really well. So you just get a good angle on it there, you can see the little bits. I think you can see already how that's going to turn out, but I'll leave that overnight and that will have completely hardened and will be absolutely beautiful. Really lovely little bracelet. And I'll just set that aside. I can finish that off screen in a moment or two and I'll show you the ring. Just going to do the same process with the ring. And we'll zoom in a little. And there you are. The sand again is very, very handy just for keeping that level, because then the last thing you want is to have the resin all running over to one side. And I think that looks really lovely already, but obviously I'm going to put that somewhere safe and dust free. Actually, I'm going to cover it over so that no dust gets into it. I've got the window in the room open, so I don't want anything arriving in there. So I'll just pop a container or something over the top of this and keep it dust free, and in the morning that will be ready to wear. And I'll pop back then and let you see how it looks.